Welcome to our final tutorial for the Tin Can Knits pattern Flax Light. Now I'm getting ready to pick up the stitches around my sleeves and put my sleeves back on the needles to finish them. I have finished the body of the sweater, and here it is. This is the neck here, and it goes down to here where it is bound off. So now I'm going to be picking up the stitches that are in reserve. These are considered live stitches, which means I can pick up and begin knitting them. So let's get started and I'll show you how to do it. Now I am using a size 5 US needle and I'm using a 16-inch. This is a interchangeable needle, so it is 16 inches from one end to the other, just because it's a little less cumbersome than full-sized. Now the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be locating my center, which will be the armpit, which is right here, as you can see. And then refer to your pattern. You are going to, depending on how many, what size pattern you are making, you are going to pick up stitches on the beginning of the row and the end of the row here. So in my case, I am going to be picking up 7 stitches along here. And then I'm going to pick these stitches up here as well. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to begin with a small slip knot. You can see it right here. And you could use a crochet hook for this, or you can just use the needle itself. I'm going to insert it through some of these empty spaces here. This is the center, so I want it to go to the left of the center. And I'm going to pick up that little slip knot and pull it through and onto my needle. So there's my first of my additional stitches. There is the second. The third. The fourth. Fifth. Sixth. And seventh. Now you are doing this with your right side facing you. So you're not doing this from the inside out. You are doing this with the right side out. So I have my 7. Now I'm going to start putting the stitches that right now are on reserve. They're tied with a white string. You can see them right here. I'm going to be sliding them onto my needle. But you want to make sure that when you slide them on, if you look at a stitch, like here, it has like legs. There's a left leg and a right leg. You want to make sure that that right leg is the one that is facing toward the front. Otherwise your stitches will be twisted. So you're just going to simply transfer these stitches. You're going to untie this reserve and you're going to slide those stitches on one at a time, but making sure that the right leg is facing to the front. I'm doing just a few at a time, and as I go, I'm sliding the cord out after I have transferred the stitch. So here you can see I'm going 1, 2, 3, and we'll do 4. And then I just slide this string out from there. And those stitches have now been transferred on. I've now gone all the way around. I'm back at the beginning, and I'm going to pick up the same number of stitches as I did in the beginning. However, these I'm not going to pull the yarn through. I'm just going to loop them onto the knit, or I'm just going to loop them onto the needle. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now you do want to take and count all the stitches all the way around to make sure that it matches the pattern. And you're going to put down a stitch marker to mark the beginning of each row so that as you go all the way around, you know you've completed a round. Now, if you remember, I pulled the yarn through those first 7 stitches. I could have just simply picked them up, but it just gave me a little bit better foundation to start with. But because my yarn, as a result, is starting 7 stitches in, this is where my live active yarn is here. And I've already technically knit these first 7 stitches. I'm just going to slip them over. And so at this point you're going to knit just rounds with no decreases, and that is going to depend on the pattern. For the size that I am knitting, I'm going to be knitting 1.5 inches down before I do my first decrease. So you want to maintain pattern. So if you did your flax light with the garter panel going down through the center, you're going to continue that same pattern going all the way down the sleeve. In my case, I did it as a garter stitch for the entire sleeve, so I'm going to be knitting 1 row and purling 1 row in order to maintain the pattern that I've established. So at this point, you're going to go ahead and do the however long you need to do for your first portion of the sleeve before the decrease. And so pause the video here and come back when you are ready to do that first decrease. I now have knit the number of rounds that I need. In my case, it was 1.5 inches, so you can see right here. I'm now ready to do the decrease row. So you're going to slip your marker. You're going to knit 1 stitch. And then you're going to knit 2 together. Then you're going to knit all the way around the sleeve until you get to the last 3 stitches before you come to the end of the round again. I have now knit in pattern, whichever pattern you were using for your sleeves. I've already gone all the way around and I'm to my last 3 stitches. If you remember, we began the row with knitting the first stitch, knitting the second stitch 2 stitches together, which is 1 decrease. You're going to do the opposite on the end of this round. You're going to slip, slip, and then knit the stitch. The 2 stitches together. This is your second decrease. And then you're going to knit the last stitch.
and that completes your decrease round. Now for the remainder of the sleeve, you're going to be knitting 6 rows in whatever pattern you're using. The 7th row is the decrease row. Now an easy way to remember how many decreases you've done, because most sleeve patterns will tell you how many to decrease, how many repeats you will have. I use a removable stitch marker, and I just simply slip it in and I leave it there. And every time I see one of these removable stitch markers, I know that that is a decrease row. So I will knit the next 6 and then put another stitch marker. So I can easily count how many decreases I have down the sleeve, which helps to keep your sleeves the same length. And also, if I lose track of which round I'm on, I only have to count back to the last decrease. So I know that I've only got six rows that I would need to count in order to know exactly where I'm at. So you would continue doing this all the way down until you reach the length of the sleeve that the pattern calls for, and then you would switch to the smaller needles and do your ribbing for around your cuffs, and that would complete your sleeve. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks so much for watching.